Hello and welcome back to day 2 of CADVent 2024, my series in using Autodesk Fusion to design 24 items throughout the lead up to Christmas. My name is Elizabeth Bishop and you can find me on my social medias at 3dbish. So let's jump into Fusion and get started with designing this. To get started, we're going to use a sketch and resolve to design this bauble. It's quite a simple design and you can actually adapt it to what you want to do. I'm going to work to being able to make this 3D printable, so you can adapt it to the size of the 3D printer you want and make a few adjustments for the way you want it to look. So starting off with a sketch on the XZ plane, I'm going to sketch out the simple profile for my bauble. So starting off here, I'm going to put in the maximum height I want it to be. So for my 3D printer, I want this to be 100 mil. It's also quite a good length for the bauble. And then going to create a circle, and that is going to be a diameter of 60 mil. I'm then going to use the line tool. So line up here, bring that across by 5 mil. And then bring that up to here. I didn't actually want to use the midpoint constraint there. Fusion automatically adds in constraints when it thinks they'll be helpful. To delete them, just select that little triangle, that means midpoint, and press delete. And I'm actually going to bring this down and create this line here. So I'm going to dimension this one as 15 mil. And then I'm going to add in a couple of arcs. So create, then arc, 3-point arc. The first one is going to be down here. So adding that arc in there. And I want to add in this tangent constraint here. So just making sure that snaps to a tangent constraint. Adding one more line at the top, bringing that across, and then another arc, 3-point arc from that line to that line. And again, I would like that one to be tangent. So I just want to bring in this to be 1 millimeter there. And I want to kind of shape this to be the bauble shape that I'm looking for. And that's looking quite good there. As always, you want to fully define your sketches. So adding in a final dimension for this arc. I'm going to make that 55 millimeters, and the one down here, I will make that 22.5. So there we go, all of our lines are black and our sketch is fully defined. I'm going to finish the sketch, and this time I'm going to use a revolve tool. So create, then revolve, grabbing these 4 profiles here. I want to revolve that around the Z axis. So there we go, I'm revolving that by 360 and we have a very basic bauble shape. Now I've designed this upside down to make it possible to 3D print. So I'm going to print it from this surface down here, which means I want everything to be printable up here. I also did not go to a point. As 3D printing, you don't want to go to an infinite point. You want to give it a defined place to go to. So there we go, we have that basic shape. I'm then going to create a hole through it to hang up. So I'm going to create it on this surface. Now, the easiest thing you might be to create a circular hole, but circular holes don't necessarily print that well. So what I'm going to do is actually add in a hexagonal hole. Now, this is a little tip for 3D printing. So if you add in a hexagonal hole and put the top of your hexagon, this means that your lines will be more self-supported and you won't need to use support material. Adding in a few constraints, I want that to be vertically above there. And then I'm going to add in some dimensions. So my width to width dimension is going to be 5 millimeters. And I want that point to be 4 millimeters away from there. And that there is my hexagon. I do want it to be fully defined though. So I'm just going to check what is not defined. I think it's just the rotation of the hexagon. So adding in a horizontal constraint there, and there we go. So that's fully defined on the body there. Finishing my sketch, I'm going to do an extrude, and this time I want to do an extruded cut. So I want the cut operation, dragging that through. I want the direction to be 2 sides. Actually, a symmetric cut will be fine for here. And bring that out by a distance that's going to cut all the way through the bauble. Can't use a 2 surface on this one as there's no flat surface to go to. So clicking OK, and there we go. We have a hexagonal cut through the bauble, which will print much easier than a circular hole. The final thing I'm going to do is add a fillet to the very top just to round off that edge of 0.5 mil there. But we still have that flat top, not going to an infinite point. There we go, a very basic bauble. And you could add some appearances if you like. So using A on the keyboard as the shortcut to access appearance, we could maybe add a gold appearance to this. Clicking the download button, we can download that appearance and drag it onto the body. And there we go, we have a very shiny bauble appearance there. So if you're interested in how you can export a file for 3D printing, there's a couple of different ways you can do this. The way I like to use is right click on the component, save as mesh. I'm going to export this as an STL, but you also have other mesh type file formats if you'd like to use those. I select STL, millimeter, and then my refinement settings, I just make sure they're on high. Click OK and choose where you want to save your file. Now, if you're interested, I'm going to jump into a slicer to show you how you can print this in a really nice effect that works really well on your 3D printer. So open up your preferred slicer and bring in your STL file. Now you want to arrange your STL file such that the bottom part of that bauble is sitting on your build plate. And then a tip for this is to slice in vase mode or spiralize outer contour mode, depending on what slicer you're using and what printer you have. But you don't want this bottom section to be a vase mode. So set your vase mode on your 3D printer, and this will mean it will spiralize the whole of the outside contour in one continuous path. However, you want to print the bottom as a solid section. So printing that up, you can print this as a solid section, and you can see there we get a solid bit for the top piece. So just keep increasing the number of bottom layers until you have that. And I actually print this one with no top layers to give a little hole in the top. Save your file and pop it on your 3D printer. If you'd like to download the STL file directly, you can find this on my social media accounts, Printables, Thangs, and Cults3D. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you've got any questions, please do post them in the comments. If you've liked it, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you for the next day of CADVent 2024.